thrilled to be joined now by the award-winning author of novels for twins and teens. Tweens and teen. What is
Teens,
this?
teens and tweens.
Twins and
Teens and tweens.
yeah.
You can just say young adult if you don't want to say teen.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to my next interview for the Eat Train Talks Coming of Age panel. I'm thrilled to be joined by the award-winning author of novels for teens and tweens, Debbie Reed Fischer. Debbie Reed Fischer worked for many years as a film and TV agent, as well as a middle school and high school English teacher. And I'm thrilled to have the chance to talk with her about her middle grade short story, part of the Coming of Age 13 B'NAI MITZVAH Stories anthology, This Is What I'll Tell You. Another entertaining and Jewish-themed story that I really loved. So thank you so much for talking books with me today, Debbie. I'm so glad you could join me on E-Train Talks.
Thank you very much for having me, E-Train. I'm so honored to be here, and I can't wait for us to get started.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the coming of age stories and also just your work as a writer. So one thing I've loved learning is how all the authors came together to contribute their writing to such an important and meaningful Jewish-themed anthology. So will you share how you became involved with the novel and what the experience has been like working with other Jewish authors on coming of age?
Well, I think it's been one of the most meaningful and rewarding experiences I've ever had for a couple of reasons. Number one, there haven't been a lot of Jewish-themed books and stories that are included in the diversity movement, and we really do need diverse books. It's a wonderful movement. However, Jewish books should be included in that. So I was really excited about this project for that first reason. And the second reason being that 10% of the profits go to fight anti-Semitism. They go to organizations that fight anti-Semitism. So I really wanted to be involved in that. And as far as working with other Jewish authors, I have been a fan of some of my co-authors' work for many years. So it was really thrilling to meet some of them. And there are other authors in our lineup with whom I've been friends for a very long time. So it was really fun to work with friends and to make new friends with this for such a meaningful project.
That sounds like such a rewarding experience. And I think that it's really important what you're doing because, yeah, for one, Jewish books aren't necessarily considered diverse books by some people, even though, for starters, we're only about 2% of the entire world population, and there aren't nearly enough Jewish-themed books. Like, I can only name a few. Thankfully, there are organizations like PJ Library, PJ Our Way. They're amazing. They distribute a lot of Jewish-themed books, and they work with a lot of great authors. But other than that, there aren't many organizations, especially organizations that help write books for kids, because there are Jewish-themed books combating anti-Semitism for adults, but it's really hard to find some books like that for kids, tweens and teens especially. So I'm just very grateful that all of you amazing authors worked on such a meaningful project, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to win the giveaway, Melissa Roski's giveaway, and it was such a rewarding novel. Like, it was a rewarding experience for you, but it was also a rewarding experience for me to read all of your stories because I can relate to every single one of them, not just because I'm Jewish, but also you can kind of understand what all the characters are going through because they're all middle graders going through some pretty crazy times. Right. And I can certainly relate to that, and so many others can as well.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that because, of course, we're not writing for gatekeepers. We are writing for kids. So, and we're writing for all kids, not just Jewish kids. So I think that this is a great choice. Here, I have to hold it up. I'm trained to do that. I think coming of age is a terrific choice for reluctant readers of any background, of any identity, because these stories are universal in many ways. You know, coming of age means just that, turning a corner in your self-discovery and development and coming into your own. And I think that there's just something for everyone in the anthology. And I'm happy that it resonated for you both as a Jewish kid and as just a reader, just as a kid. So I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you for writing it. And I know that a lot of my friends and a lot of people I've worked with in the writing community adore your novel because it's just so meaningful and it's so true in a sense. Because I feel like all the experiences the characters go through, they're all real. Like, I think that it's another great example of realistic fiction because it's not necessarily a fictional story. All these stories, one, they may have happened to the authors. A couple of the coming of age authors I've talked to, they said that their experiences with their B'nai mitzvahs, they really related to their protagonists. So I think that it just adds another great aspect because it's realistic. It's the real deal. So I think I'm just extremely grateful that you all incorporated parts of your writing in your life, as well as added fictional aspects and made it feel so real yet fictional at the same time.
Right. That's the fun of it, is weaving. I mean, that's very true for my story, which is called This Is What I'll Tell You. I wove a lot of autobiographical elements, things that really did happen to me. And then, of course, there's the fun of making things up. So it was a blend of the two, exactly as you say.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful blend at that. And
Thank
now
you.
my next question is, so your story, This Is What I'll Tell You, includes interesting and relevant themes. In your story, the protagonist, Libby, tries to hide her Jewish faith from her peers, worried that she'll face anti-Semitism like at her old school. But along the way, your main character comes to realize that being Jewish is special and amazing. This inspiring message is one that I admire. So why did you decide to include this sad yet important message in your story?
Well, because it happened to me, number one. The anti-Semitism was autobiographical. That was actually true. And when we moved to Greece, the story does take place in Greece. There, we were told by some staff who had worked in the house. My father worked at the embassy, just to give you a little background. He's in the Air Force, but he was also a diplomat. And when you move into a house and your parent is in that position, it's a very large house that is used for receptions and gatherings on behalf of the United States. So you live there, but you also have a lot of official functions there. So it comes with a staff. And so we were told that the family that had been there before us said to the staff, you may not want to work for this family because they're Jews, they're Jewish. And so I included that in the story. And so all those things were real. What was not real was that I never had a bat mitzvah when I was 12 or 13. I had one when I was 18, much later, because at the time that I lived there, and I didn't put this in the story because it would have been a full-length novel instead of a short story, the synagogue in Athens, Greece at the time was actually shut down because there were so many death threats and terror threats, and it was a very dangerous place to openly be Jewish at the time. So what I wove into the story was that, you know, she has this fear of exposing herself as a Jew because she had experienced all of this anti-Semitism in the last place that she had lived, which is something that had happened to me. But the difference is I had to talk myself into being brave and telling people on day one that I was Jewish, finding a way to work it into the conversation, because what I had learned from other places I'd moved is that if you don't get it out into the open right away, people then don't trust you. They think you're hiding something. So that only happens in an environment when you are the only Jewish person. If there are other Jewish people around you, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Then people in your community are very used to Jewish people. But if you are the only one and you keep it a secret, then when it does finally come out, and it will, because hiding who you are never works, just never, ever works, then they will never really trust you because they'll think that you were always hiding something. So, and that's actually an anti-Semitic myth or trope, stereotype, whatever you want to call it, is that Jews are not to be trusted. They're hiding things. They're shady. That's a very, very common stereotype. So I wanted to get it out in the open. My character doesn't do that, though. She hides it. And so This Is What I'll Tell You is kind of a play on words, meaning she's deciding what she's going to tell people, but by the end of the story, she realizes this is what she has to tell them because this is who she is, and she's proud of who she is by the end of the story.
Yeah, it felt like a whole full-length novel because I think all your character experiences, while it was only a short story, it was one chapter in the entire coming-of-age anthology, I feel like I wanted it to be a full-length novel. So that's just one reader telling you you should definitely do that.
Thank you. Maybe I will. I appreciate that. Thank you, E.
Yeah, thank you. And another thing that I wanted to know, like, I think that I just honestly had no idea that, for starters, before our interview, that you traveled all over the world. Your dad was in the Air Force, worked at the embassies. I also didn't know that there was a lot of anti-Semitism, like, there's a lot of anti-Semitism all over the world. Like you hear a lot about it in the US and Canada, but like it's all over. And a lot of people don't really understand that and really don't recognize it.
Yes,
So
100%. Absolutely true. Yeah.
yeah, and it kind of leads into like the topic that we were originally discussing, how people don't think that Jewish books are diverse books, when in reality they are, because we face a lot of anti-Semitism. We receive horrible threats sometimes, and I feel like I think that we need to be we are diverse, and our stories are diverse, and our culture is diverse. So I think people really need to understand that.
100%. In fact, if you ask any law enforcement agency or any agency that tracks hate crimes, religious hate crimes, for religious hate crimes, anti-Semitic crimes top the list.
Wow.
Number one, more than any other faith. That is not only worldwide, it's also nationwide. And right now, they are reaching hate crimes against Jews are reaching levels they haven't seen since the 1970s. A big problem is that the news doesn't carry it. For example, the middle school across the street from my neighborhood was covered in swastikas. It never made the news. And then the high school across the street from the middle school had a principal who denied the Holocaust publicly. And he didn't even get fired right away for it. But these things don't necessarily, in fact, I know they often don't make the news. And so people really think, you know, we need diverse books, but, you know, except for the Jews, they're kind of okay. It's not true, because I have to tell you, when I do virtual visits like the one you and I are having, and I think I spoke about this on the last panel that you watched, the Books and Books panel that we did for this anthology. I've done virtual visits where the kids had never seen a Jewish person before. And when it came time for the questions and answers after my presentation, the first question was, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? Because they'd never met, and they came right out and said, oh, you're our very first Jewish person we've ever seen, even though it was through a computer screen. But yeah, you're right. It's very, very, we are underrepresented in that sense. There are a lot of Jewish people in publishing and who write books, but Jewish themed books are not really out there as much as they need to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I had no idea all of these horrible things were happening. I knew they were happening, but I just had no idea it was such a mass amount. And so many of the events, they aren't on the news, they aren't being talked about, and they need to be. The hate crimes need to stop. And it's just horrible. While all of these movements are occurring, all of these peaceful protests to like we need diverse books, we need diversity. Now anti-Semitism is at its peak. It's worse than it's been in 50, 40 years.
Exactly. I couldn't say it any better. You said it exactly perfect. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and that's the really hard truth. That's why I wanted to start this coming of age panel, because we need to educate people that for starters, we need Jewish themed books, but also we need to stop hate. We face a lot of mistreatment, unfortunately, and it's not getting talked about enough. So your stories are just truly inspiring, and I'm honestly mind blown that all these things are happening all over. And even just at a regular middle school, there's swastikas and hate. It's just, and also what's even worse is the principal, he said that the Holocaust didn't happen. Right. It's like there are also people denying that there's hate. It's just horrible.
Right. But you're doing the right thing. You're spreading the word, and you are part of the Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. So I bet your parents must be so proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. You are remarkable, talking about this and everything you've accomplished. And I don't believe you're 11. I don't. I think, come on, you're at least 25, 45.
Yeah, I honestly could be. I feel like this is like a job, even though I'm 11. It's a fun job though.
You're amazing.
Thank you. And now on to my next question. And before we move on, this may seem like a dark topic, everybody, but it's so true, and we need to accept that. So I know that there are many more interviews to come, and there needs to be more, actually. Like, we need to talk about this more, because there's hate going on, and we need to accept that. And more than just accept it, we need to do something. And I know that's a little bit of a dark topic to talk about in this book chat, but it's still important and we need to discuss this topic. So, one thing I enjoyed about This Is What I'll Tell You is that Libby had friends and family always by her side, encouraging her and giving her advice that would help Libby along her journey. Some themes that I loved in your short story are personal growth, friendship, and acceptance. So, I know that we already discussed this question a little bit in the earlier questions, but were there any similarities between your character's Jewish adventures and yours as a middle grader? For instance, did you try and hide your Star of David necklace? Did you endure anti-Semitism like at your old school, at different places that you lived, like Libby?
Great, great question. So I kept diaries when or journals, however you want to call it, and I found them. I've always kept them close by, and I found a page in which it detailed when we first moved to Greece, and this was 1980. And the entry was, today the embassy told my dad to tell us we are not allowed to wear any t-shirts with Hebrew letters or any Jewish stars. We have to be very careful because of the anti-Semitism here. And at that time, I had a t-shirt I loved. It said Coca-Cola in Hebrew. Have you seen those shirts?
Shirt.
Oh, you have that shirt.
I also have a shirt that says YouTube in Hebrew as well.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. So, yeah, so that was really and that was my introduction to, welcome to Greece. And I had to really not wear anything with Jewish symbols. And I have to be honest, my sons, especially one of them is traveling through Europe and has been traveling through Europe. And whenever my kids travel to other places or other countries, I tell them, be aware of wherever you are. Has nothing to do with not having Jewish pride. My kids have a lot of Jewish pride, but it is just being aware that you need to know your surroundings and you need to read the room, as they say. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do need to tuck that inside your shirt for your own safety. You're putting yourself in harm's way. It depends on where you are.
Yeah.
So that is the conversation that Jewish parents have to have with their kids when they travel. That, that you're not hiding who you are, because that's what my story is about. You can never hide who you are, but in certain situations, you don't want to make yourself a target either. So
it's not really hiding yourself though, as well. Like it's kind of you're protecting yourself. And
right.
You still always have to keep that pride. But yeah, like you said, we also have to be careful.
Right. You can't put your head in the sand. For example, my kids went to a Jewish day school. They went through eighth grade, kindergarten through eighth grade. And we have a police state, or they're not there anymore. They're grown-ups now. They had a police station on the campus, an actual police station, because the campus had several buildings, and there was also Jewish Family Services and the Jewish Community Center and, different. So it was a very large campus with a lot of Jewish organizations there, and actually 2 Jewish schools. And so there was enough land to have a police station on campus, and it was very necessary. And whenever I had friends come and visit me, if I was doing a speaking presentation there, they were shocked at the amount of security. Years ago, I interviewed Judy Bloom on that campus. Yeah, I know. Wow. Right. And they had, so I invited some of my author friends to come, and they were shocked that they had to go through 2 security checkpoints, that there were armed officers at the front doors. We're very used to it. Yeah. This is something that is our reality. And so, I'm always so surprised. It always takes me by surprise when I visit my friends who aren't Jewish. If I go, I have a friend who's Indian, I've been to her temple, or I'll go, to a church, and there's no security there. You just kind of walk right in and everybody's very comfortable. It's not like that at a synagogue. We are very safety oriented because we have to be.
Yeah. So. And it's really horrible that we have to have so much security. And so I went to a Jewish day school for like 5 years, and I never really understood why there was always a police officer in like a little surveillance area. We had to check in. There was kind of like, there was a place where they checked like if we had our school sticker, they had to check us a little bit. So I always never really understood why there was somebody there. But now, after all these conversations and learning more, and being more educated about anti-Semitism, now I really understand. And it's just, I can't believe that we face so much, and we have to be worried, like, because something can happen, like somebody can barge into our school, or just do something horrible. We have to be wary of that all the time, and it's just horrible.
But at the same time, I have to tell you, so I was raised this way with all of the safety, right? But almost daily, my mother would say to me, I refuse to live in fear. My mother is an immigrant. She's from Cuba, which, and then her family fled Eastern Europe before that. So I have some relatives who were exiled twice in the same lifetime. So they had to rebuild their lives twice. So my mother used to say all the time, I refuse to live in fear. Do not live in fear. Go out and live your life. So it's kind of a balance between being aware of your surroundings, like I said before, kind of reading the room and making wise decisions about how to protect yourself, but still go out and live. We're not going to just, stay inside and be scared or stand down anymore, which is why this book came about also, because, a lot of Jewish authors were sort of speaking about how, all this anti-Semitism is going on. And whenever there's a display in a library for diverse books and they're showing religious diversity, Jewish books are never included. And so we decided to get loud and proud and start making our voices heard. So again, we do have to be safe, but we are not living in fear, and we are, very proud of being Jews.
Mm-hmm. We can't live in fear because anti-Semitism isn't automatically going to go away. We need to do something about it, and we can't be scared. We need to stand up and be proud of ourselves, like you said. And that leads me to my next question. I'm just trying to click on the script. The computer's acting weird. All right, I'll just edit that part out. So I know that one of the main reasons Coming of Age was written was to combat anti-Semitism. But what are other messages you'd like your readers to take away from Coming of Age 13 B'NAI Mitzvah stories?
Well, even for kids who aren't Jewish, especially for kids who are not Jewish, what I'd like them to take away is, if you're proud of yourself, everyone else will be too. And bravery comes in all forms. Bravery doesn't necessarily mean you are fighting Godzilla. Just being who you are can be an act of bravery sometimes. Going over and saying hi to somebody who doesn't have any friends can be an act of bravery sometimes. And, there's a lot of that because moving as much as I did, either my best friend moved away every year or I moved away. So I had to find a new best friend every year for many years. And, even my friends had to be brave in being my ally sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I wanted that to be a takeaway. And I also wanted, there's a stereotype that bar mitzvahs are just a big party, like a sweet 16.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of reflection. It's a big commitment. And it's a commitment for your whole family. In fact, in my most recent middle grade novel, it's called This Is Not the Abby Show. Mm-hmm. There's a bar mitzvah in that book as well. And it shows how all of that is affecting the sibling who is getting no attention, who has to listen to her brother practicing all day when she has friends over, and she has to explain, oh my goodness, this chanting, I know it sounds weird, but he's practicing for his bar mitzvah, and to explain what that is. And, I want kids who aren't Jewish to just understand how much work goes into it, how much family is involved. And again, it's really about being proud of yourself, and that age of reckoning, of deciding what kind of person you want to be. So it's a very pivotal age when you're 12 or 13, and you really do kind of change after it. In fact, to become a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, you don't even have to do anything. It's just becoming that age. According to Judaism, you become a bar or bat mitzvah. So it's a celebration of that, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah. So I think that it all kind of comes down to putting yourself out there, just being there for somebody, or just kind of walking up to somebody saying, I see that you're alone. Can I be your friend? Do you need somebody? Do you need help? I think that just asking, being there, and just kind of understanding others, I think that really putting yourself out there is the bravest thing you can do. Like, because Godzilla isn't going to come around and stomp on our city every single day. So,
Right.
um, I think that just being there for somebody, being a good person even when nobody else is, doing your best to be kind, whether that's sitting next to somebody at lunch or maybe walking somebody, like maybe somebody needs a little help, just opening the door for somebody. So I think that just putting yourself out there is really the bravest thing you can do, like you said.
Yes, and actually you'll find everything you just spoke about, the kindness, the bravery, the different situations you find yourself in where you have to make a decision. In all of the stories in coming of age, you'll
Yeah.
find those themes.
Yeah, and they're very relevant themes, and I really love them in coming of age. So, I read that as a kid, you lived in many different countries around the globe. Does the fact that you've experienced living in other cultures and having to learn different languages and kind of adapting to new surroundings, does that influence your writing today? And was there anybody in your life, a parent, favorite author, teacher, or role model who inspired you to pursue your writing?
Don't edit that out, by the way. I like we all stumble over our words for sure. Okay, so the second part of the question, yes, the first part of the question, everything in my life is influenced by the fact that I moved everywhere. And as Maya Angelou used to say, she's a citizen of the world. That is how I feel. And I've adopted things from other cultures that inspire me. And I just really do. I really am a people person. I love people and I'm very curious. And one of the things that is interesting, I think, in the story that I wrote, this is what I tell you, is it's a Muslim who saves the day for her, who shows her Jewish pride. And that actually was autobiographical. I had a lot of Muslim friends and classmates because about 50%, between 40 and 50% of the classmates at my school in Greece were from Muslim countries. And so, that definitely gives me a worldview in my writing and in my life. And as far as who influenced me and helped me, my parents were amazing. My husband is amazing. When I first started, he said, "You've always wanted to write, so this is your chance, go do it." And he has supported me in every possible way. And I would have to say, I had a professor at the University of Miami where I went, who was also my advisor, may he rest in peace. And I didn't realize until much later how influential he was and how wonderful and inspiring that he was for me. So yes, I've had creative writing teachers in high school who were wonderful. But really that professor, Paul Nagel was his name. And he was very influential in my journey.
That's so interesting. And I love learning about the writer's experiences and their inspirations because as an aspiring author myself, I like learning how authors really come about their authorism, how they become authors, people that inspired them and motivated them. So I think that that's something that I always really like asking my guests. And also, I just think it's very helpful learning from about different perspectives. Like sometimes teachers help people, sometimes parents, and sometimes all of the above. So I think it's just really interesting to learn about authors' experiences and their inspirations. And now that leads me to my final question, the question I ask every single one of my guests. If you could be or meet any literary character, fictional or real, any time period, who would it be and why?
Whew, that is such a tough one. It's a toss-up. It's a tie between two very different characters. So Harriet the Spy would be my first choice because I have always loved eavesdropping ever since I can remember. And now with our smartphones, with the notes section, I can just, take down, and actually I recycle these conversations and they go right into books.
Wow.
People always say, "Oh, your dialogue is so realistic." And I feel like telling them, well, that's because the couple behind me at the restaurant had this conversation and I was eavesdropping. So Harriet the Spy, because I loved how she wrote all these conversations down and just, how she was so stealth about it, and just her character is fascinating to me. And then the other one is probably Jane Eyre. I do love classic literature, even though I write mostly comedy, kidlit, really. But the main takeaway I have every time I reread it is how much confidence was just built in. Everybody, the whole world was telling her that she was nothing, but she knew inside she was a wonderful human being and really felt confident about her own abilities, and she had integrity, and she spoke her mind, and just kind of a real inspiration to me that believe in yourself no matter what everyone else is telling you. So those are the two characters I would
Those
need.
are two great characters. And also, I love eavesdropping as well. I don't have a phone, but I should bring my iPad, although I can't fit that in my pocket, and just go into the notes section, type down everything everybody in the restaurant is saying.
Yes.
Oh, looks like the waiter is talking about this. Ooh, that's juicy stuff. I'm going to write that down.
Yes. And then it goes right into a book. Just save it, and then you can recycle it later.
Mm-hmm. And I also really love your second choice of a character, and it's great to have multiple. I love hearing authors who have two or more characters that they chose, because it really shows that they love books, and that's why I'm doing all of this. I'm promoting literacy, and having great authors like you promoting books, promoting characters, and educating people about books. That's just such a great thing to do. That's why I don't know what I'm saying.
No, can I tell you, you are amazing. I can't believe not only the number of authors who are on the E-train, who jumped on the E-train, but you've got New York Times best-selling authors. You've got incredible publishers sending you boxes full of books already in such a short amount of time. There's a lot of buzz about you, E-train.
Thank you.
You're amazing. You're just inspiring all of us. You're wonderful.
But you're my inspiration, because authors are the reason I do this, because I've always loved books. They're probably they're my childhood, not playing out, like some people, like they play outside all the time, they ride their bikes everywhere. I'm sitting in my room, just lying down on my bed, reading my favorite book.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Most authors will tell you they did the same thing.
And that's all for this panel interview. Next up, well, you'll just have to wait and see who I'm interviewing next on this panel. So thank you so much for joining me, Debbie. And I know that all of my listeners really enjoyed learning about your writing and your experiences, both writing your novels and short stories, and also your experiences traveling all over the world with your family and learning about different cultures, and just kind of your inspiring words about anti-Semitism and combating anti-Semitism and educating people. Those are four main things that I really took away from our chat. Just like this sheer amount of hate in this world, but also we always have to look for joy. We always have to be proud of ourselves, no matter what others say. And I think that the second character you chose for my final question really reflects your personality as a writer and as a person. So I think that's a really great choice.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I hope we always stay in touch, because I think you're amazing.
Well, I think you're really amazing too. I'll keep watching the panels, the webinar panels with you and the other coming of age authors, because I find them really interesting, learning about your B'NAI Mitzvah experiences and just learning about everything coming of age 13 B'NAI Mitzvah stories. And also, I really do want you to write more, like make a complete novel about your protagonist in coming of age. I really think you should, because it's such an interesting story, and it was probably, I'm going to edit this part out, but it was probably my favorite.
Oh, that's so nice of you. I won't tell anyone. It'll be our secret, I promise. Thank you, E. This was wonderful.
You. And to everybody listening, you can find Debbie Reed Fischer on Twitter at Debbie R. Fischer, and on her website, debbiereedfischer.com, because she's amazing. And to learn more about all of her books, just check her out on social media, check her out on her website, and just, yeah, I hope we can keep in touch, Debbie. And I had a lot of fun today, and I learned so much.
Same here. Thanks a lot.